Question would be, do you believe Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a socialist, and why?
Okay, so number one, let us answer the questions. We would definitely appreciate that. So to his point, your gentleman, public schools are not good. Public schools, American school system ranks very low on the world stage, especially within the developed world. It should be better, and private schools have much higher scores. The result of students in private schools is much higher, as well as charter schools. So yeah, I think the private industry definitely does education better. To your question about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I think she definitely has some socialist leanings. I don't think she's a full-on socialist, though.
Bernie Sanders?
I think Bernie Sanders also has some socialist leanings, but again, I don't think. I think, yeah, I agree that he's probably closer than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Is the negativity towards socialism include the widespread of universal health care, free college education? Do you guys believe that's a bad idea?
Yeah, I think that it's a majorly flawed idea. I don't think that it would produce a good outcome.
Free healthcare is a bad idea.
Well, free healthcare is a pretty great idea, but unfortunately it doesn't really work that way.
Wars we don't stop here.
Is there another?
Hi. Okay. So when he was asking about socialism, he focused on specifically the concept of public schooling, which is an example of socialism. And you guys seem to focus on that solely in your answer, but you did kind of neglect the rest of the socialism that we use within the United States: the post office, the policemen, the firemen, the library system, stuff like that. So in what measure do you feel that socialism is appropriate within our country?
So again, that isn't socialism. Socialism is designed by the government controlling the means of the production and determining the way that the private sector does its business. That is the defining quality of socialism. That's what the Webster's Dictionary defines.
Those are officially aspects of socialism, okay, especially considering that the post office is required to operate within all the states, especially parts of Alaska that are so remote there are no other ways to get it. So if the government requiring that these are regulated there and continue to regulate and man people there on purpose because otherwise the people would have nothing, those are aspects of socialism. So again, what aspects of socialism do you feel are required?
How is a postman, how is the post
hold on, guys.
justify socialism?
I wasn't saying that justifies. All I'm saying is how many aspects of socialism do you feel are...
everyone just calm down. Calm down.
All I'm saying is what aspects of socialism do you feel are okay in society?
Okay, what do we feel is okay as conservatives, right? I believe that socialism on a small level is actually very good. Like, for example, we're socialists in my family, right? We share money, we share bank accounts, we share food. But when you take socialism and you extend it to a broad range of people who have different interests and actually have different wants and needs in society, it does not work because you cannot satisfy everybody. Right.
It doesn't work. You look at places like Denmark.
Okay, Denmark is largely a capitalist society.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay, great.
I have a question here.
Right. And we'll get back to you. If you want to get back in line and ask us, follow up with your question, that's fine too.
My name is Vago.
Hey, Vago.
What up? I got a question about prison reform. I see you guys have a picture here of Ronald Reagan.
Right.
And I know that Ronald Reagan was the one that inaugurated the war on drugs. And I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention the fact that the United States, which has like 3% of the world's population, did you know that 1/4 of all the prisoners in the entire world are incarcerated in a U.S. jail for a country that calls themselves land of the free and the home of the brave? And you know that Ronald Reagan, when he started the war on drugs, back when you said, I don't think people were getting popped with a gram of weed. Okay, bro. Well, look. All I know is that we have 3% of the world population, but 25% of all the prisoners in the world, including Russia, Iran, and all these terrible countries, are in a U.S. prison. And we're the home of the brave and all this war on drug shit. All right.
I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to say one thing.
Do you guys have questions?
Yeah, I'm going to say one thing to you guys. What do you think about healthcare? Do you think we should have? You think we should have free healthcare? So.
Okay, so one at a time. I would
Go ahead,
definitely like to
I'm
answer. So to your question, I'm against the war on drugs. I think that the United States prison system is an absolute disaster. We have some of the highest revision rate, recidivism. Thank you. Rates in the developed world. That's obviously a major issue. I think that. Okay.
Hey guys. Let's get order. To the guy in the yellow sweater, if you want to make your voice heard, please approach the microphone instead of yelling. Not a lot of us can hear you.
So yeah, I think that
I wasn't able to hear you. So if you want to
shouldn't have a prison system that incentivizes the private prisons to fill cells. That's obviously not conducive to a free society.
So I have a quick question. So you're talking about public schools and private schools. So what are some of the benefits for private schools, and what are some of the benefits for public schools? What's the argument for all of this?
Well, I think the private industry actually has an incentive to make their students better, right? The public system does not have that. The public system gets their funding from the state or from the federal government, whichever one, and when you're spending other people's money, you don't care about it. And that's just a simple fact. If you're not spending your money, you don't care about it, okay? If it's your actual own money and you actually have incentives to create products, better services, and educate kids more, yes, of course the private system is going to be better at educating students.
Yeah, I mean, private schools are, when it's narrowed down to a smaller area, people in different counties are able to decide where their money is going to go, what education is best going to represent them. So I think that there's definitely some benefits to having a private school system. However, I do think that there should be some level of federal guidelines to make sure that we're competing on the world stage, which we're failing to do right now with our current public system.
Yeah, but could...
Actually, the microphone guy is going to ask the questions. Thank you.
So could you say, though, at least when it comes to private schools, they have the incentive rather to help people, but rather to make more money so they can get the best dollar at the end of the day and just run through people and say they're doing well. And I don't know, maybe even make numbers up just to say, hey, we're doing better than public schools. Why aren't you giving your kids to us?
I think that's definitely a risk, which is why they should lay out federal guidelines to make sure that students are being educated, otherwise they lose their license.
So then why don't we just have federal guidelines be made up for the public schools right now?
We do, and we just don't meet them.
So why don't we make better ones? Why go to the private schools?
We have high standards, public schools just aren't meeting them.
So public schools got more funding. Where was one thing the
Well, yeah, we understand that, but there's absolutely no evidence for the more money we put into the public school system, the better it gets. There's really no evidence for that.
Hey guys, so just while we're here, I just wanted to say I think it's amazing that when you guys first started, you had one person. And now we got everybody filling up the balconies over there.
Cool,
but while everybody's here, yeah, I know, it's awesome. And look at this guy right over here, Nadeem. Dude, you're like regulating questions. That's awesome. That's great. Anyway, while everybody's here, I just wanted to, obviously it's a very politically heated environment right now just in our country. But I was curious, what are the biggest misconceptions do you think that are in the air about conservatives? And what do you think are the biggest misconceptions about liberals?
Well, I could say on the conservative side that I think that liberals need to stop labeling conservatives as racist, bigoted, homophobes that hate the poor. And I think after liberals get past that part, then we can actually have a constructive conversation about politics and what is best for our country as a whole. If we keep just labeling everybody as horrible, horrible people, we're never going to get anywhere because you can't work with people who you despise. And that's why you see absolutely no bipartisanship right now in Congress, because everybody wants to label each other as something reprehensive. And we can't have that. So as a conservative, I see more of the side of liberals attacking me. I don't really see the side of conservatives attacking liberals besides the things that they spout on the news and say that conservatives did this to us with a policy, and they said this about us with this and that. I don't really see that in actual real life. What I do see in real life is people that are so disgusted with other people's views without even without even sitting down and actually putting some thought into what these people are talking about.
I see your point, and I agree that we are having a moment where we're very divided between Democrats, Republicans, very partisan. But I think the biggest instigator of this was the President of the United States. And I quote his rhetoric that he stated before. He said, when Mexico is bringing their people, and I quote, they're not bringing their best. They're bringing criminals, rapists. That started the division. So if you have a president, a leader of the most powerful nation in the world, speak with a rhetoric like that, what can you expect in return?
So I think that definitely we have several times while we're on the stage denounced some of the president's rhetoric. I really don't think that that's something that that conservatives are unified for. But as far as why are we not getting along so well?
If you have Republicans denouncing his rhetoric, why do you have his advisors and representatives defending him and saying that he didn't mean what he said with literal words? He literally said Mexicans are bringing rapists and criminals and bringing drugs.
Listen.
How can you defend that?
Listen. To sit here and pretend that incivility started with Donald Trump is just an absolute lie. Okay, Joe Biden. Okay, 9 years ago said about Mitt Romney that he was going to put y'all back in chains. That's what Joe Biden said to his constituents. So let's not sit here and pretend that incivility just started with Donald Trump, all right? Because that's absolutely not true whatsoever. It's really not.
You never heard Joe Biden say anything racist, though.
That sounds pretty racist. Telling your constituents that Mitt Romney is going to put y'all back in chains is pretty darn racist, if you ask me.
Okay, so I just want to always know, there was this guy here that was being really positive, and like, this is a really like scary thing for a lot of people. So anybody that's like too scared to like talk, if you have something to say, like please come and speak.
All free. Don't ask questions.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Yes. And please let people. Wait, I also have a question too. So I just wanted to say that first, but I also have a question.
Thank you.
I wanted to say to the guy that was there, he's gone now, who like brought up like positivity. Like keep that in mind, guys. This is really like we should be celebrating how awesome this is that everybody is here and all that. That's really cool. So celebrate that.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's really, really good. And then I also wanted to say, I'm not saying this in like a negative way, like who are you? What are you doing here? But like, what are you guys' like credentials for what you're speaking about?
Okay, we are intellectual conservatives. We are part of Young Americans for Freedom. We have a chapter on campus here, and we run meetings every Tuesday from 3 to 4 in A134. And we actually invite everybody who has a different view or wants to disagree with us, or if you agree with us, to please come to our meetings so we can have this political conversation, so we can actually move in the right direction that we need to on our campus. I started this group about a year ago, and the reason that I started it was because I saw that I was not able to speak my political views on campus without, being called some kind of reprehensive name. And I built this platform and started this platform for the conservative students on campus, so you could have a home to where conservative students are, and a place where you can have political rhetoric without people shouting you down.
I also, just one quick quick answer. What is your race? What's your race?
I'm actually Filipino.
Okay,
and
that's
half American.
Okay, I was curious about your race, so I just wanted.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just say one thing just to get this straight.
Is that a question?
Yeah, no, I'm going to say one thing because of the way you said it. Nobody's shouting at you saying some things. It was between me and him a debate about my country and some personal views, and he said Palestine does not exist.
I'm not talking about this
but when he said
event,
when he was saying things about my country, it's personal. And that's it. He was being.
I did not say Palestine didn't exist. I said that the West Bank was Israeli territory.
So the West Bank is Israeli territory. The West Bank is where my people live, and they're being prosecuted and seen as second-class citizens. So I want to say that to you, sir. That's it.
He has a question.
And Palestine will forever be free.
I do appreciate you coming up and talking.
So I had a question. I understand the whole we shouldn't come in with preconceived notions. I respect that, agree. However, when you have people being murdered by police for no reason other than selling CDs or playing with a toy gun in the street when you are 12 years old. 12 years old, based on the fact that they are black? If that is the reason that these children are dying, which it seems that is the only correlating factor. That is the only correlating factor that I'm seeing, unless you can point something else out.
So,
how does that not, you have to understand the hurt and the pain in the community that then strides from that, and then to see conservative people in general defending those murders, and no one else defending those murders but conservatives, from what I've seen. That has to hurt.
Yeah. So something I think that's worth noting. I think that conservatives disproportionately protect cops that are in the wrong, and I think that liberals disproportionately demonize police officers that are in the right. So I would say. So there are obviously some situations, right, where police officers shoot someone and the situation surrounding it is maybe less than certain. Obviously, in some of these situations, the cops are right, and in some of these situations, the cops are wrong. And I think that people on the left are very quick to assume that the police officer is wrong, and I think that people on the right are automatically going to assume that the police officer is right.
Okay, my uncle is a sergeant in the Lake County Sheriff, so it's nothing about not anti-police or anything. I just want to say one question. Yeah, one question. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Let me ask the question.
Okay.
Okay, so what do you think about, this is really personal to all of us because we are all students, and we all seen mass shootings happen all over America. Month after month, year after year, more people are dying. Do you think we should have more gun regulations in this country? Or more background checks? Or at least more mental health facilities? Helping people who cannot get help and they are seeking help, but because they don't have insurance or something like that, they cannot gain it. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I guess to start, you said that we're seeing more and more year after year. The violent crime rate in the United States has actually been dropping every single year since, I believe, 1993. So that's according to the FBI uniform crime statistics.
They're talking nationwide.
Again, yeah, I'm
okay,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so according to the FBI uniform crime statistics, violent crime rates are dropping every year annually.
That's not true.
That is true.
No, okay. That is not true in minority groups currently, because we have started the war on drugs and that violence has been instigated by the government. That systematic racism has caused more violence in minority groups.
So I don't know the statistic of if there's a rise in murders among minority. I'm not saying that that's incorrect. I'm speaking on a federal level.
I'm sorry,
in the
please don't
sense
interrupt
that,
him. I'm
that
sorry.
these gun laws are...
You can come here and talk on the mic if you want.
These gun laws are on a federal level, so I do think it is worth noting that if we're talking about making federal gun changes, we should examine what we're doing on a federal study. So if you're performing some kind of science experiment, you're gonna try to account for control, and then you're gonna account for the separate different variants. So I guess it's kind of hard to speak to what's happening in minority populations, but it is worth noting that we've seen an influx of, I think, over 300 million guns, or sorry, 150 million guns in the last 10 years,
right.
And we see a reduction in crime. So there's no correlation between lack of gun laws.
I would like to revert back to my original question, which I did feel got interrupted. I agree that yes, we have. Whenever a shooting does happen where a black man dies and it's by a cop, we have these preconceived notions based on where we're coming from. So I understand that. However, these cases are almost indiscriminately people of color dying at the end of a white cop's gun, almost always. And whenever we see similar cases with a white person, they are arrested without injury. Or they are arrested with slight injury, but they are still alive. Dylan Roof, who shot up a church in North Carolina, killed 9 black people, was arrested unharmed while flying the Rhodesian flag. Yes, they were reverends, they were church members, and they...
Okay. Well,
he's a white nationalist.
I think we just have to come to the conclusion that not every police intervention is going to end exactly the same or start exactly the same.
It's
right.
You said there's no correlation.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you. I believe it was 2015. Okay. There was, I think, don't quote me on it, but you can look it up. But I'll give you a close number. It was probably a dozen black individuals that were shot by police unarmed, right? And almost, I think 9 or 10 of those shootings were actually justified by an escalation of threat inside of a court of law. Okay, so now, if you have a problem with that, then we can talk about justice reform, right? We can talk about court reform, we can talk about that. But let's not say that every single police officer is out there to target black people, because that's obviously just not true.
It's not.
Right?
It's not a problem. But let's say one thing. Okay, Chicago, which has one of the strictest laws in the country, has the most.
Okay,
one of the most.
I'm sorry.
You know?
Man, is this
sir,
a question?
Sir, let me finish what I'm saying.
Is it a question?
Okay. Yes, I am saying that.
Okay.
He said it's not correlational. I'm saying it is.
Okay.
Because it does have strict laws, but I'm saying. Yeah, but look. Yeah. Go ahead. Does anybody want to ask a question?
Yes. Thank you.
I just want to say that all of your opinions matter, and their opinions matter. It takes a lot of courage to sit up here, and it takes a lot of courage for you guys to ask these questions. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. But this is why I have faith in my generation that we're going to change the world. We need to stop fighting against the differences and strive for peace and work together and change everything. And that's all I'm going to say. And just so you know, conservative and liberal politics are two sides of the same coin. Ma'am, here you go.
I just want to make a comment.
Okay, yes, please.
I'm all about positivity, okay?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And if everyone could look around and see all the different colored faces in this room right now, we're all talking about things nobody wants to talk about. And no one's gotten hurt. No one's gotten punched. No one's gotten shot. And this is a beautiful thing, regardless of what's going on outside of here in the world that we're talking about right now. Like he was saying, you guys saying how you feel, knowing that right now in today's society, it is not going to be taken well. You know that it's not going to be taken well unless, of course, it's people that agree with you.
We're fans of free speech. So.
See, and that's a wonderful thing.
That's why we all see what
All right. So, how do you feel about the current two-party system in the United States that's going on right now?
I actually like the two-party system. I believe that not every political system is ever going to represent all your values within the same party. It's just not going to happen because you have countries like Russia who have dozens of political parties, and now they have a dictatorship. So it's really good to have people within two parties, because then you've actually conceded the fact that you all have different interests, but you can still work together.
So, yeah, just to add to that, I think in some ways the two-party system is definitely flawed, just because it really only allows a dichotomy of views when there's a very, very, very wide range of views. And I feel that most people don't feel entirely represented by their party. I know I don't feel entirely represented by my party. I just don't know what could be done to be conducive to making there more parties that represent more people.
We have a question here after. Okay, yeah, we have her and her as well, so if you want to ask questions.
Just moving to a different topic, I'd like to discuss foreign policy.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of the unprovoked coup that's being perpetuated against Venezuela? And I'd like to ask how your opinions on that. And they're pointing of previous war criminals such as John Bolton, Elliot Abrams, and Donald Trump. Yeah.
So I'm personally not in favor of regime changes. I think it's been a universal disaster when we've done that. Yeah, so I don't really have any more to add to that.
How do you feel about it?
Not 100% on it. I don't really have anything worth saying on that topic, but I'll definitely do my research on that. Thank you. Question?
I'm also going to change the subject.
Sure.
So my question is, why are people that are on the conservative side so adamant about keeping like abortion clinics closed? I say this because the first Planned Parenthoods that were open in predominantly black communities.
Yes.
And now, and due to that, the population of the United States of people that are black should be more. Like that should be the
Absolutely.
the majority of what's
but you
in the
have
United
but you
States.
have states like New York who are in some years aborting more black children that are actually born on the street, and I think that that is a problem because most of those abortions are not happening because of you know, medical issues. They're not happening because you know, deformities or anything like that. These are just women who are choosing not to carry a baby because
And
they
I
just don't
understand
want
that,
to.
but why do you guys feel that you have the right to take that away from our us?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying that I understand that, but I just don't understand why people think that they have the right to decide for our ovaries what happens because a lot of women
Right.
are in a situation.
I'm
and
really
we should have that.
honestly, I could care less about your ovaries. Like I don't care about them. Like I care about the baby that's.
Nobody cares about your genitalia too.
Right.
My human
Exactly.
life matters more than an embryo that was just created.
Right, but we're
My
talking-
body matters
right.
more than a baby. Like
Right. Well, the baby is actually a separate part of your body because it has its own DNA. Right. Well, I don't think you should have the choice to murder anyone.
Well, okay, I understand. No, guys, please calm down. I understand where you're coming from, but like, what do you think about like, say something happens where I get pregnant, no matter if it was planned or not, I don't have the financial stability to take care of that child. Would you rather me have the child and then have the child grow up in poverty? Like half of these people in school are on FAFSA. Like some kids can't even get
Right.
that because of their situation.
Right, I
So do you
understand
want
that.
the kids to grow up in poverty where they end up dying
No,
because they don't have
actually,
food,
I don't want.
rent, water,
right.
household? Like,
I don't want any children to actually grow up in poverty. But there's a lot of things that you can do to, for one, prevent a pregnancy. Two, to make sure that a child does not grow up in poverty. There's a lot of things that can be done in that situation.
Are you referring to like adoption?
Yeah, well, so I.
Because what we're let me. I went through foster care, okay?
What if somebody?
I went through foster care, okay? Everyone trying to save me, right? Okay? Foster care was awful. It was awful, okay? And people don't even understand how awful it is until you've been in the system. You don't want these people getting abortions because you care about this baby. Hold on. You care about this baby? Okay, these babies are getting beat. These babies are getting molested, being taken care of by the government, but can't nobody take care of it because you don't care about their ovaries.
So
you don't care about whether or not they get pregnant. These are your words. These are your words, not mine. You said, hold on, let me finish speaking, because you got me hot. See, I was all in this positivity, but you got me hot with that, talking about I don't care about your ovaries. And I don't care about you not caring. You want to know why? Because as of right now, it's a debate on our bodies. As of right now, we have
That's fine. I could.
So,
if you don't care about my ovaries, I don't care about that. I care about a child.
You care about
the child.
Is it better for a child to grow up in a home that they're not wanted? Is
Well,
it better for a
I don't
child to
know.
grow up
You
in a
tell me.
system
You
that
grew up
doesn't
in-
care
you
about
grew up in
them?
foster
Is it
care,
better for
correct?
a child to go to a home where they're abused? I'm asking
You grew up in foster care, right?
Yeah, I'm asking
Okay.
you.
Would you rather have been aborted or grew up in foster care?
Sometimes, hell yeah, that's called depression,
Okay, well,
and a lot of
that's
people have.
That's your opinion, then. That's your opinion.
I'm gonna say one thing to everybody here. No, it's not about you. Sorry. Everybody, look, I am for pro-life, but I'm gonna say one thing. Every woman has a choice to do whatever she wants to do, and we should go with that. End of story. It's her life, it's her body, not your body and not your life. Okay. Because you never bear the pain that woman bears through when she has a child. Okay? You never bear that pain.
Okay, so hold up. All right,
that's fine.
I need to say something. So
Sure, say
yeah,
something.
I get it.
Ask a question.
Okay. No. Okay. So, abortion.
Yes, abortion. Let's talk about it.
I personally think that because New York just passed a live birth abortion, I think.
Yes.
So I think that it's
gross.
a topic that is hard to define in the sense that what do you define as an organism? Like what do you consider something that's not just an organism, but then what is something that is has actual potential as an actual person? So I mean, I think that, at least personally, that you can have abortions up until a certain point. Now where that's defined, I think we should talk about.
But I think that if you're
Right,
going to do it
but
right
we
up
don't
until
know
the point
where-
in which a baby is born,
We don't know where that
is-
exact
should
line
be
is
illegal.
because a lot of people believe that birth starts at conception, right? A life starts at conception. As soon as a sperm hits the egg and it is fertilized, that is considered life to a lot of people,
I
and
understand
to a
where
lot
you're
of
coming
scientists
from.
as well.
I understand where you're coming from, but it's
No,
also
it's a
it's also
scientific opinion too.
It's also
well,
that a
we
tree
can
has a
look it
certain. It's also that a tree has a certain level of consciousness too, and so does that embryo, perhaps. Yeah, but we cut down trees all the time. Okay, so consider that. I mean, there's a point in which we should define.
So without respect to trees, I do want to clarify that we are supposed to wrap this up at 3 o'clock. So I do want to thank absolutely every one of you who have come out to voice your opinion. We really, really appreciate it. Like that's great. So
If you want to state your names once again, I don't think everyone heard them.
I'm Steven.
My name's Rob.
If you can give them a round of applause, they're very brave for standing out here. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Yeah, so we can take one more question. We've got 5 minutes.
We have one more question.
Someone who has an actual
Okay,
question. Yeah.
this might cause a lot of controversy and what question doesn't. But also, why is transgender people not allowed in the military? And why isn't Trump not doing anything about it?
Okay, I think the actual concern about transgenders being inside of the military is especially the medication that they have to carry, and especially that a lot of transgenders who actually do go through a transition and have the medical procedure, there is a very, very high rate of suicide that goes along with that. There's a lot of mental.
But you shouldn't paint them all in the same brush. We can't paint everybody that's transgender
I
in the
completely
same
understand
brush.
that, but there's a lot of people in the military, especially people like medics, who have very strong opinions on, carrying certain more drugs with them. They're being trained more. So I don't think that the push to get transgenders out of the military is just because of bigotry. There's actually a
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. What were you
Okay,
gonna say?
so I am not a conservative, but this is a point that I feel like is not something that should be completely. There's a reason why I have a lot of people that are in the military, and I considered joining myself at one point. A reason why I think seriously that they shouldn't be allowed to join is because, so I know the people that were actually in the military. Those people get kicked out instantaneously. Those people get kicked out when they have any issue with mental illness. If they get depressed, one of my friends has a friend that I speak to, so they're my friend too. He got broken up with his girlfriend, which is a very common thing that happens in the military. He tried to kill himself and he got kicked out. So imagine a regular person, somebody, well, I don't want to say regular, but like a cisgender person goes through an issue. A transgender person is going to go through 10 times as many issues as a cisgender person.
Right.
And I'm sure if there's any trans people, please come confirm what I'm saying, because I'm cis and I don't want to, I don't want to go saying things that I shouldn't say. But
that's fine.
Our military is very elite. And if you can find a trans person who doesn't have any mental illnesses, bring them in. Because I'm sure they have a lot of stuff to say and they have a lot to bring to the table.
Thank you.
But if you have a mental illness, we can't have that. Our military needs to stay strong because we need that. This is the strongest country in the world.
Right,
It needs to stay the strongest.
And that's a very unpopular opinion these days. But thank you for saying it's very important. Thank you so much. But hey, we appreciate everyone coming. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, so we do need to wrap it up now as it's nearing.
Okay. We have this guy one here. One
okay,
question.
so this one definitely the last.
This is the last guy right here.
That's
That's
the
what
last question.
Give it to him.
All right.
You've been waiting for a long time.
Go for it. So, we agree that this is a hard surface, right?
Sure.
We agree that there's liquid in this. What do you say to the stat that nearly half of the party that you'd likely identify with, unless you're a conservative Democrat, which doesn't seem likely, almost overwhelmingly deny climate change? So we've actually talked about this already. That's something we talked about quite a bit earlier. As I stated very clearly, I believe in climate change, and I believe that it's a major issue that we need to deal with.
How come your president doesn't then?
Are you going to vote for Trump in 20 the next election?
Okay, so we can't take any more questions, but we do have a video of this conversation, and we will be putting it onto our Facebook page. So please look for Young Americans for Freedom College of Lake County on Facebook, and you guys can watch the video after we put it up. So we appreciate everybody coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much, everybody. Thank you. Love it.